welcome to the Transformational Podcast, a conversation between brothers about practical ways faith is impacting our lives. We invite you to join us on this journey as we are learning to let faith transform the way we live. We are glad you are with us today and look forward to sharing our journey with you. Now let's jump in. Welcome to the Transformational Podcast. We are so glad you're back with us. Hopefully you're joining us again. If not, this is your first time. I am the Marine from Maryland, Robert.
I'm the pastor from Paradise. If you're watching online, you can see that at the bottom line. Robert still hasn't figured out how to change his name up there. But
well, Chris, okay. I learned that in post-production, it goes away anyway.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it does. Because I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm
sure there's a way to keep it there. I don't know. But if you're watching online, you'll see that Chris is getting ready to paint his house. He's got a color palette behind him.
Hey, Rob, this is actually a really cool deal. Hold on, let me show you.
I've been waiting this entire time to talk about whatever that is.
Look, this is cool.
All right, what do you got? What do you got? He's picked up what looked like a color palette. Now he's picked up what looks like a construction board. Look at that. It is a picture.
It is the first picture Julie and I ever took. We were just friends.
Get out of here.
It was the first picture that we took.
Right.
It's the first one I have that's been printed. And we were just friends, and I had it turn into a canvas with a paint by numbers deal.
Oh, so, it is a paint by numbers. Yes. I was just joking with you. No, that's paint by numbers.
No, that's exactly what it is. So
now, is it paint by numbers or color by numbers? What is it?
It's paint, dude.
Okay.
I'm just telling you.
It's painting that. If it was me, you might as well just like smear it around like a pre-K thing.
Listen, I'm telling you, that is not my craft either, but she thought it was awesome. And I surprised her with it. It was a total win. No, it was a while back.
Just a while back. Okay.
Yeah. I think it was.
Good on you.
Oh, it was Valentine's Day.
I gotcha. Well, awesome. Well, this week, obviously you know this. You knew where I was this week because I got to have dinner with you.
To Texas. I took him to Hutchins Barbecue.
Oh, man.
And I cannot believe that I take him to Hutchins Barbecue and all he got was a salad. I mean, good grief. I take you to Texas.
Did not. Absolutely did not. Absolutely did not. I had their brisket.
He got a salad and a spritzer. Just kidding.
No, my goodness. Absolutely not. No, I got a brisket, and Chris was kind enough to pay my meal, so I appreciate that. Get to hang out with him and his boys. His young men are turning out to be some pretty cool dudes. They sat there, they were engaging, they're getting smart. They love the Lord. That was very evident in what we talked about, even as we sat there and had time talking. And honestly,
isn't that cool?
It was fun
to get to talk with like just early teenage kids.
Yeah. About God stuff. And you know what's funny, Chris, is we're sitting there chatting. I was thinking about it later. Now we can't record everything we say, but it's like, man, I was like, that would have been a great recording. Yeah. Because every time we get together, we tend to gravitate after talking about the news, so to say, the news, the what's happenings. We're talking about all the really amazing thing God's doing or teaching us or bringing us through. And so obviously we try to bring that here on the podcast for you folks who are listening, so that you can walk alongside us and hopefully learn from what we're learning as we have our relationship. But yeah, I was at the Hyatt downtown Dallas, which is where the big ball on a stick thing is. I didn't
the golf ball.
Yeah, the golf ball. I didn't go up into it, but I had a long week, honestly, Chris. It was one of those weeks where I got up early, went running, and I just wasn't done until really late. So a tad on the, what you would call, like, I'm not like tired, like physically tired, but definitely on the, how it is. You get to the end of that type of week, you're like, I'm a little exhausted. I think I could probably just sit and stare at the wall.
So that's kind of how it was last night, because I worked hard this last week just trying to get a bunch of stuff prepped for the summer, a bunch of planning. But it was like nonstop every day, and then had some pretty important ministry things that I had to attend to and take part in. So yesterday morning, I get up and was going to take the boys to school and mow, but the yard was wet because I'd forgotten to turn off the sprinklers. So I was like, I can't mow. So I was like, all right, I'll go ahead and get a workout in. And then at 10:30, Jim T, who listens to this, hey Jim, came over to play some pickleball in our driveway. And
I
now here's the deal.
every time
Dude, I'm telling you, Jim T always gets me, bro. He gets me, but this time I got Jim T. I beat him 2 out of 3, and Ashley Mummert, someone else from our staff, joined us, and we're gonna maybe make this a little staff off day. Those who want to come out and
over and do a little pickleball league.
League. Anyway, it was.
You guys set up some bleachers.
Robert, like I got done and I was smoked because we got going, and once again, I had a pretty intense workout that morning.
Yeah.
We got going, and I was drenched. I lost like close to 5 pounds in water weight.
Just water
yesterday.
weight, yeah.
And so, so we got done. I went ahead and mowed, and then we were leaving like right after we got the boys out of school. I know, dude. I was really just pushing myself to the limit.
Pushing it, yeah.
So we took him to the Ranger game last night for Barrett's birthday. It's coming up, and he had a couple friends. Yeah. So we had that plan. So we took him out there, and dude, I was sitting there at the Ranger game going, I'm going to be that guy who falls asleep and they get him. Dude. Yes, asleep. That's all I could think. So I held it together. We got home late. So
hey, do you remember when we made ESPN as kids?
Yeah. We
that's
painted our chests up.
Yeah, we did.
Painted up. We were on a choir tour, weren't we? Or was it just a youth trip? I think
it was a youth trip. And remember what we painted on our chest? It was a segment. It was an ESPN segment. That's why we made the segment.
Oh, I don't even remember that. No,
we painted "Go to Your Room."
Oh, is that what it said?
It did. We had something on our front, and we had "Go to Your Room" on our back. Now, here's the funny thing about it. This is actually the best part about it. We were spelled correctly, when you're like facing forward, but when you turned around, the M and the O had to switch places because they put them on the wrong spot. So if you're looking behind us, it was "Go to Your Romo."
That's hilarious, dude. I didn't even see. I don't remember.
That didn't make the TV. That didn't make the TV. But "Go to Your Room" made that ESPN segment for quite a while.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. So where do you want to start today?
So this last week, reading through Joshua, so much good stuff in Joshua. We've talked about Joshua fighting Jericho, winning the battle of Jericho. But I want to pick up right after that, okay? Because there's some good stuff that when I read this story, I feel like God just some stuff that jumps out at me. So they defeat Jericho, and when they get done, verse 7, it picks up.
Verse 7 of chapter 7 or chapter 7? What were you at? Sorry. Help me out.
Sorry. Joshua 7, verse 1 says, but.
Okay, got it.
So I guess we got to start back a little bit. So their instructions were to destroy everything in Jericho. Everything there.
Yep. Keep nothing.
Keep nothing. It says in. Okay, let me back that up. So. Chapter 6, verse 18 says specifically, do not take any of the things set apart for destruction. That's what it says it is. Set apart for destruction.
Yeah.
Or you yourselves will be completely destroyed, and you will bring trouble on the camp of Israel. Not only will it hurt you, it will hurt others. It'll affect the entire everyone else. You're bringing it. You're welcoming it in. You're opening the door for trouble. Everything made from silver, gold, bronze, or iron is sacred to the Lord and must be brought into his treasury.
Meaning he was saying, it's mine. It's not anybody else's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I just think that's important because I think sometimes when God sets something apart as his and we somehow think we're going to take it.
Right.
We're inviting, in this case, they said inviting destruction or liable trouble. Anyway, keep going.
So it says, when the people heard the sound of all these things, suddenly the walls of Jericho collapse and all that. And they go in and they destroy it. They burn the town down, everything in it, only things made from these things. So Joshua were taken to the Lord's treasury house. And so that's all it says. It says they did supposedly what they were supposed to do. Then chapter 7, verse 1 says, but Israel violated the instructions about the things set apart for the Lord. A man named Achan had stolen some of these dedicated things, so the Lord was very angry with the Israelites. Achan was the son of Carmi, a descendant of Zimri, son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah. So it says, so it's just that one segment, right? And really, it's like the foreshadowing of what something bad's about to happen. Like you're watching a movie, right? And you see something, you're like, oh no, like you know it's coming, but they don't know it's coming. Like that's what's happening in this story because we know now because we're getting to read the story
we
back,
can
right?
see it. Yeah.
But
Well, and it said the Israelites were unfaithful. I thought that was interesting too. That's always kind of caught my eye. The Israelites, and then it gets down to essentially Achan.
Right?
Yeah, very interesting.
So it says Joshua sent some of his men from Jericho to spy out the town of Ai east of Bethel, near Bethaven. When they returned, they told Joshua, "There's no need for all of us to go up there. It won't take more than 2,000 or 3,000 men to attack Ai. Since there are so few of them, don't make all our people struggle to go up there." So approximately 3,000 warriors were sent, but they were soundly defeated. The men of Ai chased the Israelites from the town gate as far as the quarries, and they killed about 36 who were retreating down the slope. The Israelites were paralyzed with fear at this turn of events, and their courage melted away.
Yeah, I think mine would too.
So they were defeated. But here's one of the things that stands out to me right here.
Yeah.
So as they get ready to go to Ai, what does he do? He sends out spies into the town. They come back and they tell him, "Hey, this is what we think you should do." Let's go see the difference between them and when they went to Jericho. First of all, if you go all the way back to Joshua 5, verse 13, it's where Joshua saw a man and asked, "Are you friend or foe?" He says, "Neither. Here I am." He replied, "I am the commander of the Lord's army."
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yep.
And it says that this Joshua fell to his face to the ground. "I am at your command," Joshua said. What do you want your servant to do?" And so he was seeking the leadership of God. And in fact, it actually goes on and says, "Now the gates of Jericho were," in chapter 6. Now the gates of Jericho were tightly shut because the people were afraid of the Israelites. No one was allowed to go in or out. But the Lord said to Joshua, "I've given you Jericho, its king, and all its strong warriors. You and your fighting men should march around the town once a day for 6 days." And actually it goes on and gives the instructions we read before. Where did he get his instructions on how to fight the battle?
Got them from God.
Right. Too often, we get our instructions from the wrong place. We seek the wrong counsel. So if you think back, he went back to Jericho, and he's seeing this man who's the commander of the Lord's army, and then he's listening, saying, "You tell me what I need to do." And then he's listening to God and listening to God's instructions. The second one, after he's had this great victory, right?
Yep.
He sends his own troops in, the council of man. They see what they see. They come back. So here's my question: is if they had sought God, what would God told them? Would they have had to experience defeat, or would God have said, "Hey, you can't go yet. There's something you've got to deal with first"?
You know what's funny, Chris? Till you said it at this very moment, I think I've always saw it as if they had asked, or like they had gone with the whole army. I've always saw it as they went only with a certain amount of the army, or in this case, and I've always thought as, hey, if they had gone with the whole army, they would have been defeated anyway because they had taken things that were sacred, right? So it wasn't about the fact that they only sent 3,000 people. It was about the fact that they had stolen stuff. But the thing I don't think I'd ever considered or ever really thought about is, had they stopped to consult with the Lord, in other words, had they stopped to ask the Lord, that the Lord may have actually said, "No, you're not going anywhere."
Yeah.
He may have said, "Hang on, pump the brakes." He may have said exactly what he's about to tell Joshua later. He could have found that out before he actually had the encounter of defeat and ran in terror
Yeah.
and had the people melt in fear. That's crazy. I mean, now that I kind of like process that.
Yeah. Did he take time to ask God before? And if he had, and I think we do this all the time with the big scary things, we seek God, and God help. But with the things that we think we can handle, do we seek God?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really
right.
what happened here. Is they kind of looked and said, "I think we can handle this.
I got this.
We don't." Yeah. And I think of this in a lot of different ways. I mean, I think this affects so many different. It should affect our parenting decisions, but typically we don't start asking God until we are in major issues with something. Whereas, what if we were asking God, will you show us how you want us to parent our kids in this area, parent our kids in that area? What's important? Lord here's the thing that we've had to struggle with. I mean, one of my sons has the opportunity at times to play in a select sport league. And so we're asking God, I don't want them to miss church on Sunday morning. That's something that like we really believe that is more important. But at the same time, it's like this juggling act, this balance of going, this is kind of how these leagues work now. So how do we navigate? And instead of just going, well, it is what it is, just asking God. And here's what's great is we ended up with a league where it only played Sunday afternoons. And so we could actually go to church and
you could actually do church.
Right. And so it's interesting because I wonder so often we just take, because the wisdom of man says, well, that's just the way these leagues are these days. And it's just a season of life. And, just like Joshua, we can sometimes just hear what everyone else is saying instead of just saying, okay, God, what do you say? Like, what's your opinion on this? And it makes me think of like mom and dad. A lot of times when there was, decisions that they had to make for us, that they didn't go with what was popular, and it wasn't popular with us either. But they would literally just say, we don't feel like that's right with that for our family. That's not the way God wants us to lead our family. So we're just not going to do that. And I just think far too often we don't seek God. We wait until there's a crisis to seek God rather than seeking God in the mundane, in the daily, in the things that we think we can handle ourselves. And so I pick on parenting, but it could also be finances, right?
For sure.
I'm wanting to. I would love to build a shop back behind our house. And it's a vision of being able to have a little 1-bedroom apartment out there so that people who are poor in ministry can they can potentially use that, and we can help take care of them and still have a shop to store lawnmower and stuff. So I'm talking to God about it this last week, and I really felt like what he said was, wait, I've given you a vision. What are you doing with it? And I was like, well, God, I can't afford it. And he said, who says? And I said, well, God, well, the numbers in my account say. And he said, well, what can you do? And he said, did you ask me? Is really what I felt like he said. Did you ask me if you could afford it? Did you ask me, or did you just look at the bank? And here's what I'm not saying. Don't go out and do something crazy and foolish financially because you want it and do it.
Yeah,
right?
And you've been faithful not to do something that violates what would be the wisdom of Scripture. So, you're not going out and taking $1 trillion loan because that actually violates Scripture. But what he's telling you when he says, "Hey, but what are you doing with the vision I gave you?" He really is telling you, "What are you doing to be a good steward of what you have right here and now?" I mean, I was listening to someone talk about this who has now they have a house that is, it's absolutely perfectly set up to host, and they host a house church through the week, small groups, run a church, the whole 9 yards. But the difference is they have this now. And they're in the mountains, right? And they have more parking in the mountains than anyone else there. So it's perfect for them to be able to host all these people and all these things, etc. What's fascinating is he was talking about the fact that when they lived in the trailer park and they're single wide, they were hosting the same things. Nothing changed.
Yeah.
God called them to a vision of hosting people in their home, and they did. They did no matter where they were at. And so God was like, "Hey, you were faithful with the vision I gave you, with the resources you had, and then I made more. I gave you more. I made it bigger."
Whole sowing seeds. You can God gives us seeds for sowing, and so you can have some to consume, as in Corinthians, but the rest of the seed you can't grow until you sow, and so you got to sow. Anyway, that's a whole nother deal. But it's just the idea of, do we only seek God when we're in crisis, or do we seek God in the daily? So let's keep going.
Yeah, let's keep going. Let's keep on.
And so they were destroyed. Joshua and the elders were in despair. Joshua cried out, "Why did you bring us across the Jordan if you're going to just let us, the Amorites, kill us?" And he's really just laying it out.
Yeah, I mean, he is being super real.
I mean, just letting. Hey, I mean, in a way, he's letting God have it.
Yeah, if only we had just been content to stay on the other side of the Jordan.
Yep.
Now he was still respectful. Pardon your servant, Lord.
Yeah.
What can I say? Yeah. Now that Israel's been routed by its enemies.
Which, Robert, haven't you been there before, where you just feel like, God, where are you in this? Like, I feel like I'm trying to do the right thing. And what God was wanting him to do is to take a step back and say, will you ask me what you want me to know? Right? Yeah. Think about that. That's the question that I feel like God has taught us to ask is, all right, God, what do you want me to know about this? We just had a situation at the church that we've been navigating and it's not, I don't want to, it's not a bad problem for those who go to Grace. It's just something that I was seeking God on.
Everybody in Grace is like, whoa, what are we? Hey,
I know. And I just took a step back, and I felt like I just needed to ask the question, all right, God, what do you want me to know about this? And what God showed me is there was a spiritual element that we needed to address, that we needed to talk about, that we needed to pray through, that didn't seem attached, but it absolutely had something to do with it. In the same way, there is something that he's got to take a step back and away, because right now he doesn't see it. And he's just going, God, what's going on?
I love what the Lord says to him. Read verse 10. Read verse 10.
It says, the Lord said, Joshua, get up. Why are you lying on your face like this?
I mean, think about it. They literally just got routed.
Why don't you rub some dirt on it, you big baby?
Yeah, but it's funny. He's like, what are you doing on your face? Get up. What are you doing on your face? But it goes to the point you started to make at the beginning, which is, if they had sought God instead of sought man, if they'd have sought God, would God have said, go on to Ai? Or would he have said, hang on, you have something you need to deal with? Because verse 11 goes into what's going on. You can go ahead.
He says, so God answers him. He says, Israel has sinned and broken my covenant. They've stolen some things. Some of the things that I commanded must be set apart for me. And they have not only stolen them, but they've lied about it and hidden the things among their own belongings. That is why the Israelites are running from their enemies in defeat. For now, Israel itself has been set apart for destruction. I will not remain with you any longer unless you destroy the things among you that were set apart for destruction. I would just want to emphasize that part. He says, these are things that have been set aside for me. These are things that were set aside to honor me and set aside for destruction. Here's the thing. I think often we bring things into our own world, into our own life that we don't see as a big deal. I mean, Achan is the one who brought it in.
Yeah. And he didn't he brought in both what was set apart for God and what was set apart for destruction.
Yeah.
Because God, like you read it earlier, hey, gold, silver, etc., that's set apart for me. Everything else should be destroyed. Well, Achan, he brought both. We're going to find out he got both.
And I say this because I think, this is one of the things that I think we need to recognize is that there are some things that are part of our world, part of our culture that we need to recognize are not things of God. And that if we entertain these things and if we put ourselves in these places. And Robert, I'm going to be real with you. I struggle with this because you and I grew up in a culture, a religious culture early on where it was like burn all the secular CDs and, don't listen to anything but Amy Grant. I mean, I don't know. Sandy Patty. I don't know. Margaret W. Smith.
Rich Mullins.
I mean, good. Some of it was good stuff, but it wasn't like, let's be honest, it wasn't as good as the other music at the time. I mean,
are you down with the DC talk?
I did. Hey, listen, they were real. They're the real deal. All right. But it's changed a ton. But it was like one of those things of that we knew of people. We saw it firsthand where it was taken to this extreme where anything and everything that was not of God, attached to God, attached like you just did away with. And in fact, in college, I was a part of a group called Bucks. It's Brothers Under Christ. It's the largest Christian fraternity in the nation. Now, the heartbeat of that was to establish brotherhood and unity based on the common bond of Jesus Christ. Essentially, what happened was some guys who started in 1985 looked around and said, hey, why couldn't we, as followers of Jesus, have the same level, if not greater level of brotherhood as a fraternity as these other guys, simply because we have the common bond of Jesus? Like, why couldn't we do that without having all the junk? And so really the heartbeat of it was to have kind of a fraternity-like experience without, the booze and the wild parties and, just really carnal living in a lot of ways. Without that being a part of it. And I'm not saying everybody who's in those kind of fraternities and stuff do that, because I had great friends not. I'm just saying the culture in and of itself of the entire fraternity was based on a Christian biblical
I'll give you
foundation.
I'll give
but
you
hold on.
Go ahead.
So hold on. So we get I go into it and we get these officers of Bucks. Every Bucks chapter is a little bit different. It's run by, guys who are voted into president, whatever, into these deals. And so the guys who took over when I became a pledge, when I pledged it, they kind of took it in a direction of, like, I like to say, hyper spirituality, where it was, we actually had a guy who stood up in front of us one day and said, if we're not praying enough, if we're not doing this enough, we're not talking with God enough, we're not doing that, then we don't even need to be leaving our house. We don't even go to class. We don't need to, we don't need to be having any fun. Right. He was like, and I was like, well, okay. I hear your heart.
Yeah.
But I don't believe your conclusion is the right conclusion, especially since, like, this really the heartbeat of this organization is to have good Christian brotherhood fun. So this is like, they should not be in competition, but it was one of those things of saying, like, so this extreme approach. So here's what happens, I think, is you have these two extremes, right?
Yeah.
Where it's well, nothing's bad and nothing is, all things are fine and good and dandy because, God has made all things new, or whatever I don't know how you justify some of the stuff. But then you have the other side where all things that aren't of God are bad and evil, and they all have evil associated with it. It's like, wait a minute, I don't think it's either the extremes. I do think there are some things that God has said, hey, this is not of me. And if we'll stop and ask him, I think he'll show us. I think that we should be wise enough to go, all right, God, is there anything that...
I think we have a check in our spirit sometimes. I think we know.
Yeah, we do. And what's funny is we have an enemy who's a liar, who wants to lie to us and create justifications and reasons why, well, okay, but this is just the one thing. It's not that big of a deal. There's worse stuff. Like, right? So I guess my point is that when I saw this and read through this last week, it's like, wait a minute, is there anything in my own life that God has said, hey, I want that to be set aside for me, or I want this to be set aside for destruction, and yet you've brought it into your own camp? And yes, it was a secret sin for Achan, and a secret sin did not remain secret, which is one of the things that we need to remember, is that what's done in the dark will be brought to the light at some point. And so just know that it doesn't remain secret forever, number one, but it doesn't just affect Achan, all right? Achan, they go through this process of discovering who it is. They find us Achan. They destroy Achan and his entire family. Now, here's the thing. Many people died and they were defeated in the first attempt to fight Ai. So they were affected. The courage was melted away. That affected morale. And Achan's family was completely destroyed, all because there was something that he held on to that he thought, it's not that big of a deal. Out of all these things, if I'd keep this, come on, is this really that much? Yeah. And I think that it's that thing that I want us to always realize, and it's the thing that I was just looking at my own heart and saying, God, is there anything that I've made exceptions for in my life that you've set aside for destruction that you go, no, that's not for you.
Yeah.
And and I just wonder, I don't know. That's really the big part that jumped out at me this week. And I have one other thing as but what are your thoughts? I mean, I stopped you a second ago when I
No,
finished
I was
that
just going
story.
to say, because that's good. It's good you'd finish the story, because what I was really getting into is kind of like I was going to meddle a little bit. Can I meddle for just a minute or two? Right.
Metal.
It's going to meddle a little bit because you're talking about this stuff, all good, all bad, that kind of stuff. And how there are some things they're just not good. They're just they're either set apart for destruction or they're from Satan. And so the things I would offer that are like that, and things that are just straight up not allowed in the house. I mean, I was watching a show that's a popular show, probably 4 weeks ago. And it's a sci-fi show, and it's fun and it's happy. And in the sci-fi show, they brought in the demonic. Like brought in the demonic. Like literally, the one person, the characters, like we're many. And I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I got the remote and I turned it off. Like I turned that show off. And the kids in the house were like, why did we stop watching that? I was like, we are absolutely not allowing that in the house. That's 100%. I don't even need to ask God about that. That's not allowed in the house. And I think about the things that have witchcraft implications. I think about the things that are, because that's just demonic. I don't care how it's portrayed. It's demonic. It could be nice and fun and happy, but it's still witchcraft. There's the Eastern mysticism spirits that are like, oh, well, this is a protective spirit. It's a good spirit. They're all
no such thing.
evil.
They're all bad.
They're all evil.
Yeah.
There's no such thing.
And that's that whole "you should have no other gods before me" deal, is that there are false gods out there, but there is one true God that we should serve and we should look to, and the only one that we should follow.
Yeah, and that cartoon or that show, I'm meddling now. That cartoon, that show, that kid show, that adult show that you just watch at night or whatever, that is completely based on that. When you're letting that in your house, you're letting that in your house.
Yeah.
Like it's not, you can't see it any other way. And so there are some things set apart for destruction, and that's the stuff that's set apart for destruction. And so we've had that here recently, even in the house, where I was like, absolutely not. I was like, started turning it off, and kids are like, what are we doing that for? It's like, that's literally a quote from the Bible. Like that's straight out of scripture, but they're kind of making light of it. And we're not going to do that in this house.
So Robert,
anyway,
we told the story one time of, just to get real specific, Lou Ellen, our little sister, she was having night terrors, and that mom's having her quiet time with God one morning after breakfast or at breakfast. Just said, all right, God, what is going on? She's having night terrors. It's been several nights not sleeping. So she doesn't ask it directly, but it's basically, God, what do you want me to know? What's going on, basically?
Yeah. And then what do you want me to do? That's what she was asking.
And so she went to, she asked God, what is it coming from? And God brought to mind a specific doll that was associated with a cartoon that had sorcery in it. And
witchcraft. Sorcery is witchcraft. I'm trying to be really blunt on it.
Sorcery and witchcraft, right?
Yeah, we're not churching this up.
And so she's like, okay, so where is that? Now, Lou didn't play with it much, but it was one that was given to her by someone else. So she goes into the room. The room is a disaster. It was tornado
always
gone
is.
through. Always
Lou
is.
Ellen's room's always a disaster. I know you're listening, Lou. Yes, I'm poking at you.
Call me. Gosh.
Anyway, go ahead. Keep going.
I just want to make it clear that I wasn't the one who did that. It was Robert. Anyway, so she says, all right, God, I have no clue how I'm going to find this in here. Will you show me? And then she felt as if God just turned her head and eyes directly on it. And there it was. She took it. She threw it away. Now, here's what's crazy. Lou didn't play with it much, but later that night at dinner, she said, hey, Mom, what happened to this specific doll? And she didn't play with it. How did she even know it was missing? Well, I know.
I hadn't seen it in
there
months.
was a spiritual deal. Anyway, they prayed over the room. My dad went in and prayed over the room. But she just told my sister, well, you have other toys. We don't need that one anymore. We're going to get rid of that one. And Lou just said, okay. Now here's just some spiritual, some biblical basing for this.
Are you going to land the plane though?
I'm going to try
what happened the next morning?
Oh, the next morning. Oh, yeah.
I think that's an important part of the story.
Yes. So then you're right.
Go on your feet. You've got to finish this. This is the best part to me.
So they get rid of it.
They prayed over the
And
room
they
for
pray over the room.
protection,
Next
et cetera.
morning, Lou's eating breakfast. Dad's making breakfast. And she just says, and remember, she's young. I mean, 5 or less.
Or less, yeah.
And she just says, I saw an angel last night. And Dad's and Mom like perk up the like, and she'd slept through the night. No night terror.
Yeah, no night terrors.
What? Okay, what's going on?
They didn't even ask her how her night was. She just eating her.
No.
Hey, I saw an angel. Like, like we talk about this every day.
And they're like, really? And she described it, and it was just, she's like, it's peaceful, and said, don't be afraid.
Yeah, I went back to sleep. Whatever.
Went back to sleep.
Anyway, incredible, right? Because that's real. Anyway, keep going now. Sorry, you had to finish that one.
So if you go to Deuteronomy 18, when God has given instructions for his people as they go into the land that's set apart for him. All right. Now, I'm just going to pause there and say we are not his people, but there are principles that we can learn from his people. And I tell people all the time that God has given us this house, this land that God has given us. It's been set aside for his kingdom and for his kingdom work. All right.
Yeah.
And so there's some principles there too, right, that we can follow. So in Deuteronomy 18:9 says, when you enter the land the Lord your God is giving you, be careful not to imitate the detestable customs of the nations living there. In other words, don't just do what everyone else is doing. Now, it's a little bit different because they had different religions, but the reality is that we still have that today. We just aren't as formalized in our religions. There's still cultural practices that are anti-God, that are not of God. And so verse 10, for example, never sacrifice your son or daughter as a burnt offering. And here's the part. And do not let your people practice fortune telling or use sorcery or interpret omens or engage in witchcraft or cast spells or function as mediums or psychics or call forth the spirits of the dead. Anyone who does these things is detestable to God. It is because the other nations have done these detestable things that the Lord your God will drive them out ahead of you. But you must be blameless before the Lord. The nations you are about to displace consult sorcerers and fortune tellers, but the Lord your God forbids you to do such things. So it's one of those stills of going, man, if it's that serious to God, then it shouldn't be something that we shouldn't even wade into the shallow waters of it.
For sure. Shouldn't be taking it lightly.
Yeah, it's the double red flag at the beach. You're going to get a ticket if you even get your feet in, man. All right. Like, it's not a good idea. And so, I just, when you look at it, what are the things, and you brought that up just talking about the show you watched, like you looked at it and said, nah, this is not for our family.
Nope.
This is one of those things that God has made clear. This is not something we're going to play with. And I think that there's more of that. And in the way the enemy works, Satan, let's be clear, is our enemy, is he tries to make it seem as if it's not that big of a deal, that it's good, is that these things aren't bad, and that witches can be good, and that sorcery can be fun, and that, it's really one of those things that the very things God has set aside, the enemy goes, all right, but how do we make it a form of entertainment where they'll accept it, desensitize them to it, and then they won't even see it coming. So I don't know, man. I do believe God's made it clear that there's certain things that should be set aside, and yet in our culture we so often look and go, "Oh, come on, it's just a show. It's just entertainment." Robert, come on, man.
That's actually
everybody's
like the worst.
Watching that show, man.
It's just anyway. Hey, let's finish up Joshua, so that we can finish before 3 hours.
Yep. So they do what God tells them to do. They put Achan and his family burned up, piled a heap of stones over their body. So chapter 8, it says, Then the Lord said to Joshua, do not be afraid or discouraged. Take all your fighting men and attack Ai, for I've given you the king of Ai, his people, his town, and his land. He said, you'll destroy them as you destroyed Jericho and its king, but this time you may keep the plunder and the livestock for yourselves. Set an ambush behind the town. And so Joshua begins, he actually gives him, Joshua, the strategy here. He says, set an ambush behind him. So it was, and you get to see the strategy play out as you read. But here's the part that stood out to me. Yeah. He says, do not be afraid or discouraged. Right? That's what he starts with. And I think this is important because, Robert, we're going to have mistakes. We're going to have some setbacks from time to time. And typically those setbacks or those moments that hurt.
Yeah.
That's what it creates, discouragement of going, well, I can't move forward now. I messed up too much. Like, we already got defeated by AI once. There's no way I could, which I think it's funny, not artificial intelligence, by the way. We were already defeated once, right?
Yeah.
Why would we go forward? But the discouraged part was the part that stuck out to me, because I think the enemy uses discouragement as much as he uses fear.
I think you're
And
right. Yeah.
when the battle doesn't get won the way we thought it would, when it doesn't happen when we thought it would, when it seems as if we lost the battle already, it's like, all right, God, so now what? Whereas I think God's going, hey, don't be discouraged. Just ask me. Just listen to me. Just trust me. Here's the thing I've found is there's not a single thing God has ever said to me that stirs fear or discouragement in me. Think about that.
No, you're right. Amen.
In fact,
He calls you up.
yeah, he's never said anything to me to cause me to be afraid or cause me to be discouraged. He always says things to me with belief that
all of that should be rejected.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I don't know. I don't know where people are in their journey, but I can just say this: it really doesn't matter how the battles have gone before. If we'll listen to God, we set aside the things for destruction that were meant for destruction, and we lean into them and we listen to them.
Yeah,
we can move forward.
Well, I think
with courage.
I think you're listening right now. If assuming everybody's still with us as we've ranged through this whole thing, is if you're discouragement comes from experience. Typically, fear comes from a projection of something of the unknown, but discourage comes from experience. Discourage comes from I walked through something and it didn't go the way I thought it should. I walked through something and it went sideways or it went wrong. I walked through something that I didn't consult the Lord on. And so now I'm discouraged. Fear is, in a lot of ways, it's like I have this projection of what might happen in the future, that it's keeping me from acting now. So I think as we wrap, and I kind of think of the way to view this here is a couple things come to mind, and I'll kind of let you do last words, is, what we see here. And I think, Chris, you hit it like dead center target, which is, Joshua did not seek God for the next battle. He didn't seek God for the thing that he thought, hey, we can just do this on our own. He just listened to the guys that said, hey, no, we don't need everybody, 2,000-3,000 men. Now, 2,000-3,000 men, when he set an ambush behind the town with 30,000 men of his 180,000 fighting men, if you go into the original part of the Joshua piece. So 2,000 to 3,000 men, we're going to wipe up AI. Now he's going to go with 30 to 150, 180 total. But what God would have said is, hey, man, stop. You got something we need to take care of.
Yeah, don't move forward.
We got some things you need to take care of. So there may be some things you need to take care of right now. And God, he doesn't call you out by like punching you in the face. He calls you out by saying, hey, this over here, we need to take care of that. Hey, this right here, we need to take care of that. It's if you're justifying whatever it is that you're thinking about right now with it's just, I probably would lead to like it's just something you need to get rid of.
It's a justification that is not justified.
Yeah, it's just something you need to get rid of. And it's if you struggle with getting rid of it, then it is something you need to get rid of. And then I'd kind of like say,
Robert, here's the other deal. Like when you have that, have you ever thought, why is it so hard for me to get rid of this?
Well, that's why I say you got to get rid of it. That's why I say you got to get rid of it, because I think then it has an attachment in you. It has a hold on you, and nothing should have a hold over us. We should have dominion over it. And then when that role is reversed, that's something to get rid of. Yeah. And so, like if you're feeling discouraged, maybe you walk through something, sit before the Lord, take some time with Him, see, hey, is there anything I need to get right? Anything I need to get rid of? And that kind of stuff. And then step out. And don't let fear make a decision for you, because one decision made by fear now will be like 15 decisions made in fear later. Take that step into the unknown and then see what's going on. Now, in this case, he didn't even have to step into the unknown. God guided him through every step of the way here. But he still said, hey, don't be afraid. Don't be discouraged. And then he also, I love this. He's like, hey, but this time take the whole army with you.
Yeah. This time listen to my strategy. Listen
take
to
the whole army with you. And, God's not necessarily always calling us to do stuff on our own. And I think that's what I see here is God saying, hey, take the people with you. So like if you're like, I got these things, blah, 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 take somebody with you.
Yeah.
Take somebody with you. Maybe you need somebody to walk alongside you in prayer. Maybe you need to walk alongside you in study and maybe mentorship or whatever.
Yeah, because sometimes we don't want to involve other people. Maybe I don't know. I don't know if it's we feel bashful about it or
I think
shy about
we
it
don't
or
want to like burden somebody with something we're
that's
burdened with.
Hogwash.
Nope. Burden somebody.
Get other people involved.
Get somebody with you. And so that's kind of where so if you want to know what I'm taking away from today, Chris, and when I listen to it again tomorrow, this is probably what I'm going to take away from it. Over to you as you kind of wrap up your thoughts on this one.
Yeah. I mean, my thoughts just come down to this. I don't know what what you feel like you're battling, or maybe you feel like you're already defeated. But I think God wants you to just take a step back and say, God, what do I need to know so that I can move forward? What do I need to deal with? Like if you haven't moved forward in a while and you're just sitting back in defeat, that's not a position God has ever called you to. Mm-hmm. He wants you to move forward in your faith. And so maybe ask God, what do I need to do to move forward? What do I need to remove? What do I need to purify? Like, does my heart need to be purified? What do I need to set aside for you, give to you? And maybe God am I in this situation because all I've done is listen to the counsel of man? And if it is, God, what is the counsel you want to give me? And I just come back to this. He says, do not be afraid or discouraged.
Yeah.
Sometimes the battle's not won in a day.
Yeah.
Don't get discouraged because it doesn't happen the way you thought it would or when you thought it would. Just know that God is still a God who can take the same people back to the town they once were defeated and completely destroy
and wipe it
the
out.
enemy.
Yep.
And if we will trust him and listen to him, I believe that he'll continue to move us forward in our faith. We just have to trust him.
Amen. Thank you for taking time to join us today. Our prayer is that you are encouraged in your own journey as you let faith transform the way you live. If you enjoyed hanging with us today, let us know by leaving us a 5-star review and sharing our podcast with others. We look forward to discussing what God is doing in our lives in our next episode.